Once, there were two boys, Marneus and Tacitan. One dreamed of glory among the emperor's chosen. The other only wished to stand beside his brother. But the galaxy is cruel. The real Marneus Calgar died at 12, a child lost to the horrors of war. And in his place, Tacitan rose. He took his brother's name, his legacy, and forged it into legend. Now, years later, the statue of that boy still stands, a silent reminder of a lie that became truth. For the man who bears the name Marneus Calgar is not the boy who died, but the warrior who lived. And once again, the Lord of Ultramar stands at war. The Calgar estates, Nova Thulium. The sky burns, the heretics strike without end.
Where are the heretics deployed, brother?
Multiple groups are raiding freely. The planetary defense force is too slow, too thinly spread to counter.
We are but a demi-company. We deploy to crush the largest and ignore the rest. Signal our intent to all our allies.
Steel roars, engines awaken, the sons of Guilliman march once more.
Click, query. Where is this group in question?
The war begins anew, and the name Marneus Calgar echoes once more across the battlefields of the Imperium. Because in the grim darkness of the far future, heroes do not rest. They march ever forward into the fires of war. From the gutters they crawl, the cults of Khorne, shrieking prayers of blood and ruin. They do not seek glory nor mercy, only the red promise of slaughter. And from the heavens, vengeance descends. The sons of Guilliman strike with holy wrath, armored titans of faith and fire. Against the blood-soaked madness of Khorne, they are steel and discipline incarnate. To the heretics, it is slaughter. To the Imperium, it is justice. The heretics resist, but only for moments. Bolter fire cuts through their chants, drowning their madness in thunder and ash. Calgar moves through the slaughter like a storm given form, precise, relentless, absolute. Every swing, every shot is discipline made manifest. Deep within the manufactorum, the faithful of Khorne prepare their altar of slaughter. Their leader, a self-proclaimed blood priest, preaches frenzy over faith, madness over reason. To his flock, death is not defeat, it is devotion. While Calgar brings order with fire and precision, the blood priest answers with chaos and ritual. But even zeal cannot save them. For when the Ultramarines descend, there is no sermon strong enough to drown out the thunder of the gauntlets of Ultramar. And as Calgar himself breaches the sanctum, his vox crackles with grim humor.
The gauntlets of Ultramar were made for the slaughter of heretics, not for the turning of factory valves.
Later, the fires of heresy smolder, and victory stands upon a mountain of ash. The air stinks of promethium and blood. The cheering of the faithful rings hollow against the thunder of cooling guns. Calgar stands silent, not in pride, but in calculation. Every victory has a cost, every triumph, a shadow. As the mortals kneel and chant his name, his mind is already elsewhere, mapping supply lines, counting ammunition, measuring how long until the next war finds them. Because even when the killing stops, the duty never does.
I was gone by the time they found the body. But even then, I knew escape would never come easily. The cult had infested the mountains beneath the keep. Scavengers and zealots, bound to their black altar, whispering prayers to the blood god. They thought Marneus Calgar was dead, and in a way, they were right. That name, that boy, had already bled out on the stone. What remained was something else, a survivor, a shadow, a weapon waiting to be forged. They searched for me through the dark, calling my name, shouting their prayers to the red god. But the tunnels were old, carved long before any of us were born. I knew their turns, their echoes, their hiding places. Every breath burned. Every heartbeat was a reminder that I was still alive when he was not. They wanted the blood of a boy, but what they found instead was the beginning of something far worse. In those caverns, among the bones and the dust, I learned what it truly meant to endure. They thought me cornered, a wounded child, broken by fear and fire. But the blood of Macragge does not break. It hardens. It remembers. Every strike I threw, every life I took in that pit, was not for vengeance. It was survival. It was the Emperor's will, though I did not yet know his name. When the echoes faded, I was alone. The caves were silent, except for my heart. And in that silence, I swore I would never be prey again. The air tasted like rust and smoke when I finally saw the stars again. For the first time, I wondered if the surface itself had changed, or if it was me. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt empty. The cult was broken, their altar silent, but victory meant nothing in that place. Not when their corruption still lingered in the soil, in the blood on my hands. That's when I found it. The shipwreck on the ridge. A ruin from an older war. And inside, a single figure who did not run or scream. He looked at me, not as a boy, but as something becoming. That was the day I learned what fate had been shaping me for. I thought I had escaped the cult. But there are places on Nova Thulium where evil is patient, where it waits for the desperate to return. The tunnels drew me back, like a wound that refused to close. I told myself it was to end it, to destroy what remained of their altar. But deep down, I think I wanted to see if I still feared it. If I still feared them. They were waiting, their godless prayers echoing through the dark, their hands slick with the blood of new victims. And in that pit of madness, I learned that courage isn't born from purity. It's forged from guilt, from pain, and from the will to never kneel again. I thought I was ready to face death, but I was not ready for him. He appeared like a vision carved from the Emperor's own wrath, a warrior of cobalt and gold, his armor humming with ancient power. Each step he took silenced the chanting, snuffed out the madness like a candle in the storm. The cult called on their dark gods. He answered with fire. In that moment, I saw what it truly meant to serve the Imperium. Not glory, not vengeance, purpose. And I knew, whatever it took, whatever I had to become, I would stand among his kind one day. The heretic roared his defiance, blade raised, veins alight with false faith. He cried out the name of his god, and the angel of the Emperor answered with steel. To me, it was more than a battle. It was revelation. Each strike shook the cavern like the judgment of terror itself. Faith met fury. Flesh met ceramite. And for the first time, I understood the gulf between man and Astartes, between those who worship and those who serve. I watched, breathless, as the champion of the Imperium stood unbroken. He did not fight for rage or vengeance. He fought because it was what must be done. In that moment, I swore I would never look away from that light again. I remember the sound before I remember the light. A scream, torn not from a throat, but from reality itself. The ritual failed, or perhaps it succeeded, in the worst way imaginable. The veil split open, and for a heartbeat, I saw into something endless, a wound in the universe that bled madness. He was there, the champion of the blood god, dragged into the storm of his own devotion, his triumph turned to horror. I should have looked away, but I didn't. That was the first time I saw the warp, the first time I understood what we fight against, and what it costs to stand before it and not break. I felt it watching me, and I think even then, It remembered my name. When the light faded, I thought I was dead, but death would have been a mercy. He saved me, the warrior from beyond the veil. A space marine, a living myth made real. I remember the sound of his armor, the weight of his steps, like thunder in a tomb. To me, he wasn't a man. He was the Emperor's vengeance made flesh. But even then, even after everything I had seen, I wasn't sure if he had come to save me or to judge me, because when he looked down at me, I saw something behind that crimson helm, something that saw through the boy I was and into what I might one day become. That was the moment I stopped being taciturn and began becoming Marneus Calgar. He asked me if I was afraid. I told him the truth. Yes, but fear is a teacher. And that day, I learned what it meant to survive. Not for myself, but for something greater. The warrior who saved me took me from the ashes of that world. He gave me a name. He gave me a future I could never have imagined. And in time, I became what he was. A space marine, an angel of death.
Even now, I can still hear the echoes of that boy in the dark. The child who ran from monsters and found one within himself. For the Emperor's will, the boy died in that cavern. What rose from it was a servant of the Imperium. He turns to his men, voice steady, commanding, "Prepare for redeployment. The heretics will rise again, and so will we. Because war never ends. It only waits for those strong enough to continue it. The fires of heresy rise high into the night. The cathedral burns, a monument to faith now drowned in blood and ruin. The banners of corn flutter in the smoke, their crimson marks scrawled across the bones of the innocent. But amidst the inferno stands Marneus Calgar unmoved. Where others see tragedy, he sees strategy. This destruction is not failure, it is bait.
Save your sorrow,
he commands, his voice cold as ceramite.
The heretics are gathered. Here, they can be crushed.
His warriors understand. His will is law. Every death, every fallen shrine was part of his design. Calgar's aide reports that the cultists took the message, the false signal sent across unsecured channels, and believed the fortress world was weak. They came, snarling for blood, eager to please their god. And now, they will die for it.
It was a duel,
Calgar says quietly.
One of my old friend's favorite tactics. He would approve.
The machine voice beside him crackles with logic.
Would Marneus approve of destroying your home, your people, for tactical advantage?
Calgar does not look back.
This is not my home,
he answers.
My home is the Imperium.
Engines thunder, the ground trembles. Rhinos, repulsors, and land raiders surge forward beneath a sky choked in ash. Gunships sweep low overhead, Ultramar's war machines descending like iron angels. At the forefront, the Lord of Macragge leads his sons into battle, gold and cobalt gleaming against the firestorm.
And the House of Calgar,
he declares,
is well acquainted with sacrifice.
The words echo through the ranks. There is no hesitation, no mercy, only duty and the slaughter to come, for the Imperium, for Ultramar, for the Emperor. The chapter master raises his gauntleted fist, the order is given, and as the sky burns above them, the sons of Ultramar march to war.